You guys, we have Cassie's letter. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about, the government dropped a bombshell on Diddy's case literally this morning, and they said they wanted 11 years. They also outlined exactly why that mofo, which I love because they cut through the social media nonsense where there were a bunch of liars on Diddy's side trying to tell us what happened in court when the government's like, we're going to tell you the evidence that was presented at court. But more importantly, those statements that Team Diddy wrote, well, guess what? There have been 1 million victims that have written to Judge Aaron demanding Diddy stay in jail. The most notable is, of course, Cassie Ventura. Listen, we have her full letter that we're going to read to you now, and it is powerful. Why are we not going just by the TMZ article? Because if you guys don't know, TMZ, Harvey, one of the main people at TMZ, is such good friends with Mark Garagos, one of Diddy's lawyers or legal team, that they have a podcast together. I believe that TMZ's coverage throughout this entirety has had a distinct pro-Diddy stance. I believe it's been, I've seen it. I'm familiar with their game. I think it's important not to read just little snippets that TMZ wrote, but to read Cassie's full letter, because then, only then do I think that you will actually get the atrocities that Diddy and his band of morally degenerates are trying to hide. Anyway, let's get into this. She starts off strong. Dear Judge Submarinian, and you know it's strong because pause. I still can't believe Young Miami wrote, Dear Your Honor, right? To a court of law. And please believe Diddy's legal team looked over her letter. She didn't write that by herself. But it's like that 305 shit is cute on a podcast, cute on an interview. It's not cute when you are in a court of law asking for a dangerous criminal, according to Cassie and everyone else, to be released. But anyway, Cassie says, Dear Judge Submarinian, I have been in a cycle of thought and then overthought writing this letter to you. If there's one thing I've learned from this experience, it is that victims and survivors will never be safe. Although I can hope for justice and accountability, I've come to not trust anything. I hope that your decision considers the truths at hand that the jury failed to see. For 4 days in May, while 9 months pregnant with my son, I testified in front of a packed courtroom about the most traumatic and horrifying chapters in my life. I testified that from age 19, Sean Combs used violence, threats, substances, and control over my career to trap me in over a decade of abuse. He groomed me into performing repeated SMEX acts with hired male SMEX workers during multi-day freak-offs, which occurred nearly weekly. I was forced into lingerie and heels, told exactly how to look, and plied with drugs and alcohol so that he could control me like a puppet. These events were degrading and disgusting, leaving me with infections, illnesses, and days of physical and emotional exhaustion before he demanded it all over again. Sex acts became my full-time job, used as the only way to stay in his good graces. I testified that I learned to read Sean Combs' signals, knowing that when he spoke of freak-offs, he was demanding them, and that refusing meant punishment. It meant losing my car, my phone, or worse. He controlled every part of my livelihood and threatened to destroy my reputation by leaking these tapes, a threat he repeated often. His power over me eroded my independence and my sense of self until I felt I had no choice but to submit. When he believed I had wronged him or was not sufficiently responsive, he also threatened people around me and those close to me, including my family. I regularly worried that displeasing him meant putting my family and friends' safety at risk. I testified how beyond these threats, Sean Combs frequently used violence to get his way. Over the nearly 11 years we were together, Sean Combs would hit me, punch me, stomp me on my face, pull my hair, and throw my body to the ground and against the wall. The jury saw pictures of bruises on my back from Combs kicking me and saw the deep gash over my eye he caused when he slammed me into a bed frame. The entire court watched actual footage of Sean Combs kicking and beating me as I tried to run away from a freak-off in 2016. People watched this footage dozens of times, seeing my body thrown to the ground, my hands over my head, curled into a fetal position to shield me from worse blows. This physical violence caused bruises that makeup artists, paid for by Sean Combs, would cover up, as well as permanent scars all over my body. During my time with Combs, I was in a constant state of hypervigilance, as I always was anticipating demands for sex acts or otherwise fearing retribution for any perceived slight. My descent into substance abuse was directly correlated with his increased control over my body, my money, my freedom, and my free will. I used those drugs to push through the horrifying acts he demanded and to numb myself to the physical pain and emotional turmoil I was constantly in. While the defense attorneys at trial suggested that my time with Combs was akin to a great modern love story, nothing could be further from the truth. Nothing about this story is great, modern, or loving. This was a horrific decade of my life, stained by abuse, violence, forced sex, and degradation. She goes on to continue. This is a powerful letter. Meanwhile, Young Miami and the Diddy bunch are like, "Dear Your Honor, can I tell you something?" Just sounding stupid, but everybody that defends Diddy is stupid. And everybody believed that the truth tellers in the Diddy trial were lying and making up stuff. You're stupid too. To believe his paid off bunch of imbeciles. And not even that, maybe most of them never even got money. Maybe they were just so busy scratching for a crumb, they thought it was finally down to stop hating from outside the club and come in. Let's continue. Cassie said, "I spent the last 7 years of my life slowly rebuilding myself, physically getting clean from the drug abuse Sean Combs forced and encouraged, and mentally understanding how to live with a seemingly insurmountable level of trauma. The horrors I endured drove me to have thoughts of unaliving myself, ones I almost followed through on, if not for my family's intervention and urging that I seek professional care. I've been to rehab and have taken part in dozens of types of therapy modalities to confront, compartmentalize, and cope with the horrific memories of sexual and emotional abuse I endured for nearly 10 years. While he did that to me is always present, I'm slowly learning how to live my life free of fear and horrors I endured. And in doing so, I'm fully devoted to my husband and my children. I still have nightmares and flashbacks on the regular, everyday basis, and continue to require psychological care to cope with my past. My worries that Sean Combs and his associates will come after me and my family is my reality. I have in fact moved my family out of the New York area, and I'm keeping as private and quiet as possibly I can because I'm so scared that if he walks free, his first actions will be swift retribution towards me and others who spoke about his abuse at trial. As much progress as I have made in recovering from his abuse, I remain very much afraid of what he is capable of and the malice he undoubtedly harbors towards me for having the bravery to tell the truth. His defense attorneys claim he's a changed man. He wants to mentor abusers. I know firsthand what real mentorship is, and this disgusts me. He is not being truthful. I know that who he was to me, a manipulator, the aggressor, the abuser, the trafficker, is who he is as a human. He has no interest in changing or becoming better. He will always be the same cruel, power-hungry, manipulative man that he is. When I came out with my allegations in my civil case, he flatly denied them again and again. It was only after actual video footage corroborated the exact words in my civil complaint that he issued an insincere apology on the internet. Thanks to the footage and my testimony, this is also something he will forever be associated with. For over a decade, Sean Combs made me feel powerless and unimportant. But my experience was real, it was horrific, and it deserves to be considered. While the jury did not seem to understand or believe that I engaged in freak-offs because of the force and coercion the defendant used against me, I know that is the truth, and the sentence should reflect the reality of the evidence and my lived experience as a victim. Reliving in detail the events and truths described through the trial and this letter causes me tremendous emotional pain. I'm trying with all that I am to move on. I hope that your sentencing decision reflects the strength it took for the victims of Sean Combs to come forward. I hope that your decision considers the many lives that Sean Combs has upended with his abuse and control. Thank you for your time and attention. And she signs it, Cassandra Ventura Fine. Woo! That was a word. Prayers up to Cassie, her family. I know she's embraced by love. I hope she feels that love every day. But y'all, again, Cassie put this in motion. More to the idiots that stood in court, not even in court, said they were in the overflow room and came out and pushed lie after lie after lie because they knew that there were no cameras and they knew most people didn't have the transcripts and they knew. Thank you, Cassie, for putting everything back in focus and back in order. And I wanted to respect the victims, not just Cassie, but all the victims of abuse by taking the time to read the letter in entirety. Not clips that TMZ can use to help Diddy's case. Not clips that soften and make everybody feel guilty and not make everybody feel less guilty and find a way to blame a woman. But clips that show the reality, but read the full letter to show the reality of not just what Cassie went through, but what the victims went through. Because at the end of the day, I get the fact, yes, Diddy has a family. Yes, the kids seem nice. Yes, the moms feel loved. But at the end of the day, Diddy did this to somebody's daughter. Diddy did this, according to some people, to somebody's son. And I believe with Cassie, if Diddy is allowed to walk free, he will continue to do it again. Let this curse, this demonic energy fueled by money, greed, low self-esteem, wanting to belong, people that would sell their pennies for, sell their souls for $1. Let this cycle be broken. I hope and pray Judge Aaron does the right thing and gives Diddy a fair sentence. And a fair sentence to me is him sitting there in jail, repenting on the abuse that he has rained down on others. You guys, listen, let me know what you think in the comments now that you have all the information. You guys know I will be on live later. Until then, God bless anybody who's ever been a victim to, had to witness, or know anybody they love that's had to deal with abuse and had to deal with an ugly, cruel, greedy, manipulative world that laughed in your face and told you, who cares, so what? I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.